I'm Amanda from So You Can. In this video I'm going to show you how to take a PDF pattern that you download yourself on your home computer and print out from your home printer and tile it together to make something that's more recognisable as a standard sewing pattern. I'm going to show you how to print the PDF, how to tile it together, and then we'll get started with using it. Okay, so when you download a PDF, what happens is they will send you a link via email and you will be able to click into that link and you'll be presented with something that looks like this. I have downloaded the Hemlock t-shirt from Green Lane Studio, which is the pattern that we use in our introduction to overlockers class. But the same process applies no matter which pattern company you've got your PDF from and whatever PDF it is. So you're basically sent all of the files that you need to print your pattern. It can look a little bit overwhelming, but please don't feel overwhelmed by it. Here on the Hemlock one, the first one that we have are printing instructions. Now they're really important because they tell you what to do with all of the pages when you print them out of your printer. So it's usually a good idea to have a look at that. I quite like to print it out as well and have it next to me. Then you have the instructions. Those are the actual sewing instructions, the second one. So you need to download that. You want to save it somewhere and you can print it if you want to have it by your side, or some people would like to just use the instructions on their computer, and either is absolutely fine. Then here you'll see we've got two print at home options. We have two copy shop options, and we have two US copy shop options, and then two A0 copy shop options. All of the copy shop options are only if you want to send your files away and have a company print them for you on the huge big sheets and they send them to you in the post. And if you do that, then you don't have to actually tile your pattern together in the way that we're going to do in this video. So if you want to print it at home, this is what you're looking at, these two files here. The reason there are two is because this particular pattern comes in sizes up to size 32, so they've just split that over two files. So you select whichever one is your size, click on that, and it will take you straight into the PDF that is the sewing pattern. So this is the one that I need, and you'll see that the Hemlock tee is 19 pages and they're all going to come out individually out of my printer. It's really important that we make sure that when we print our PDF out, that it comes out the right size. If your printer isn't printing to scale, then that will affect the fit of your pattern. So that's the first most important thing to learn when we print out PDFs. So if I go to File, obviously your computer might be slightly different, but here on my computer, if I go to File and Print, then this is the box that I get and I'm ready to print my pattern. Before I would ever print out any PDF, I'm always going to go, for me I have to click into more settings, but what I'm looking for is the scale. I want to find out what scale my printer is going to print to. Now, if I were just to click on print, my printer is set to print my pattern out at 110%, so it would be too big. So what I need to do is either change this to 100% and make sure it comes out correctly, or I prefer to just click actual size. And if you click actual size and then print, and it should come out the right size. Okay, so this is my PDF sewing pattern. This is what it looks like when it comes out of your home printer. So it's basically lots and lots of A4 pages that we need to put together. Before you actually put it together, what you have to make sure is that when you print your PDF pattern out of your printer, on your print options on your computer, go to scale. And you have to make sure that you select 100% or actual size, and that will make sure that the PDF pattern prints out the right size. Now, the best way to check that is print just the first page on its own, And then take your seam gauge, or just a ruler if you don't have a seam gauge, and check that this box here measures what it should. On the first page of every PDF pattern you will always have a test square. So it's telling me that this little box in here should measure 5 centimetres by 5 centimetres. So I'm just going to check that by measuring it, and you can see that it does. And if I wanted to go for the inches option, that should be 3 inches by 3 inches, and again you can see that it is. So I know that my printer has printed my pattern out accurately, and then the sizing is all going to be accurate. That's the first step. When we know we've got the right size, print out the rest of the pieces, and then we're ready to tile them together. So tiling our PDF pattern together is basically the process that we go through, where we take all of these individual A4 pages and we connect them to resemble the big sheets that you see inside your sewing pattern. Now, the very first thing you have to do is you will notice this part here is your sewing pattern, and there's a black box around that. Everything that's outside of the box isn't anything to do with the pattern, and unfortunately we need to go through the process of actually cutting that off. What I've done here though, and a really good tip, is you don't need to actually take the time to cut out all 4 sides of this box. If you consistently cut out one side, so either left or right, and then either top or bottom, then what happens is you've created an overlap that allows you to tile the pages together, and it saves you half the cutting time. Okay, so I've now cut my pages out. I've consistently cut them down the right hand side and down the bottom, so I'm ready to tile them together. You'll notice that all of the pages have a number, and different pattern companies will work different systems. Sometimes they will have a number and a letter, and the letter can often refer to the row on the pattern, but this one is just numbers. So it's just as straightforward as putting the pieces together in numerical order. Here I have pattern piece number 1, and I'm going to connect onto that pattern piece 2. So I line them up, and you'll see there's a sort of shaded rectangle. There will always be something again, and it will vary from pattern company to pattern company. Here I have a rectangle. Sometimes it's the company's logo and things like that, and you can also see that it looks right. It's making sense because these lines are meeting up with each other just as they should. It's something that often I think people get really worried about tiling together a pattern, thinking, well, I don't know how to do that, but it's really not that tricky. Once you've got the method, it's just time consuming really. So you'll also notice as I'm tiling it together, I'm not using huge big strips of sellotape. What I'm actually doing is just using little pieces, just because I find that a little bit easier to work with. I think if you pull off a huge big bit of sellotape, it just tends to get in a tangle. So as I'm tiling my pages together, I've got to hand the printing instructions that I mentioned earlier, because they're going to show me the layout of all these pieces. It's just a bit like putting a jigsaw together. So I can see from this that my rows are 4 pages wide. What I like to do is tile together my rows individually and then put them all together. So I've already got the top row done, and then I'm just going to go on and work through the rest.